Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Astrology of 2024 class. We're going to look at the astrology of 2024. We're going to start this year looking at the major transits. We're going to go through kind of 6 to 7, 8 major transits that are going to color the year. I've kind of broken down the year into 3 parts. The first part of the year, we're going to start with the Gregorian calendar. So that's going to start in January 2024. And we're going to be looking at really coming into like very new energy, even though we'll be in the middle of winter and we don't really think about like new energy bursting out until the spring equinox. I think this winter we are going to be feeling the newness coming of a new world that's kind of on the horizon for us. And that has a lot to do with the transit that's happening in January, which is Pluto moving into Aquarius. This has been a really talked about transit in astrology for a while because Pluto's a slow moving planet, right? It only moves through a sign every 15, 17, 20 years. So we're closing a really major chapter and we're entering like a totally new era. And I think the first month, 2 months, up until about March, when we start seeing more impactful transits, we're really going to be colored by this Pluto moving into Aquarius, a new age of Aquarius. We also have a Chiron transit in Aries that I think will also help us feel some new energy. Anytime we have Aries around, we're talking about new cycles, we're talking about beginning new things. So that's kind of that first part of the year while we're still in winter. Then when we get to the astrological new year, things are going to really start moving quickly. We have quite a few transits that I think are going to push us to expand and explore very quickly. So things are going to change quite soon after the astrological new year starts. This year, the eclipses will be on the axis of Aries and Libra. So right when we start the new year, the astrological new year in Aries season, we're going to have eclipses. So the next part of the year, part 2, is kind of like a lot of change, a lot of newness happening. We're actually being asked to act on these changes. So we're going to be trying to find our balance, find our ground, find our foundation during that time. As a lot of changes are happening into the spring, into summer. Then we kind of move into the later part of the year. We do have eclipses again. We have retrogrades. And then we have some pretty impactful transits between Saturn and Jupiter where they're going to square each other. And this can kind of feel like sort of a positive challenge coming for us, reaching sort of a crossroads. This idea of like expanding and restricting ourselves. So we're reflecting on what we've known, and then we're maybe growing even further past this year. So we'll talk about all these transits in this class. I also wanted to discuss that 2024 is a Saturn year. Saturn is Father Time, right? Traditionally in astrology, Saturn was the final planet. It is the last planet that you can visibly see. And so until telescopes were invented, we thought Saturn was the end. And Saturn's themes kind of revolve around endings in a way. It's about structure. It's about creating the boundaries. Okay, we know we want all this freedom and we have all this potential for life and for new things, to create things, but how do we make sure that it's safe, that it's orderly, that it's being done properly? That's where Saturn comes in and says, are you putting the elbow grease in? Are you putting the work in? Are you doing the challenging, hard things to make sure that things are done well and properly? So whenever we have Saturn coming around, we know we're going to go through kind of difficult transformational challenges and changes, but we're going to come out stronger because of that. So in general, I would say that this year is about receiving rewards if we are actually doing the hard work, if we're facing our fears, if we're meeting ourselves. This year's big challenge, I think, comes from Saturn in Pisces transit and also Pluto in Aquarius. We have striking a balance between innovation and tradition. So we're talking about Pluto being in Capricorn for the last, 15 years since 2008. That's a big change now. Um, we're going from what we've always known to something totally new, something unexpected, right? In the sign of Aquarius, something strange, something unique. And we're trying to sort of find our way between innovating for this new world, creating, envisioning for this new world that we want to exist, but knowing that this old world is still here and we still have to deal with it and it's crumbling before us. So, how much do we want to still invest in it? What are we taking from these traditions and this old way of living that we've learned? How are we taking that into the new? We're moving between these ideas. And within that, we're really going through quite a soul expansion, a soul evolution, right? Aquarius is about elevating the collective consciousness, and Pluto being there is sort of this transformational journey of redefining our soul expression, also with Saturn in Pisces, which we will talk about. And then the big portal for opportunity, I would say, is we have lots of moments of alignment for our personal and our collective growth between the eclipses in Aries and Libra, which has to do with the self and the other, and also Chiron in Aries. We're having a lot of moments where this is it. This is the time for us to really act on these changes that we've been wanting to implement, to really put some elbow grease into growing as a person, individually, and together collectively as a society. Overall, just major theme here is we are creating a new world. I think we're all feeling this right now. We are entering into a totally new era, whether that's because of politics, whether that's because of um, sort of these like social identities and structures that existed in the past that are crumbling or changing, revising themselves. All this sort of digital renaissance we're having right now. We are overall reshaping a lot of societal structures and personal paradigms. So I would say be gentle with yourself into this year. This is a challenging year. This is a transformational year. Change can hurt. Change can be, in the long, it's one of those years where it's like when you look back on it, you're going to go, wow, I did so much and I put in so much work and I really faced my fears and I was bold and I overcame them. But remember to be gentle and compassionate with yourself as you are doing this work. It's not easy work. A lot of these transits are going past this year, so it's a journey. And I would just like to tell you to be kind to yourself on this journey. So we'll start with Pluto in Aquarius, which is going to be kind of the first major transit coming up in 2024. It's going to happen in January 20th. Pluto is the god of the underworld, representing death, rebirth, and deep soul transformation. So Pluto is a newer planet to astrology. Traditionally, we could not see Pluto. So a lot of the attributes that were given to Pluto in modern astrology came from Mars and Saturn. But there's a lot of Mars. Pluto is supposed to be the higher expression of Mars. And so where Mars has to deal with the act of death, the act of whether it's through the fight, through the struggle, Pluto has to deal with the transformational process that you go through once you have died. And this doesn't have to do with physical death, right? It has to do with a metaphorical death, a death of the ego, a death of the self, a death of relationships. Things are always ending and beginning again in our lives, finding new form, finding new relationships. So Pluto is taking us on that process. How are you transforming? How did what happened to you change you? And then Aquarius is symbolized by the water bearer and is bringing us lessons in innovation and how to be a good human. So when we talk about Aquarius, I think it's important to talk about both modern and traditional rulerships. Traditionally, Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. And so you have this story of Capricorn and Aquarius being ruled by the same god, Saturn, who is the god of time, the god of death, the god of sort of rules and regulations. Like, how am I creating this structure for you to live in, the boundaries of life? Capricorn is saying, okay, I need to put all this hard work into this. I need to worry about legacy, create something lasting. I'm creating something structurally sound that works, that I can leave for generations. And then Aquarius is coming along and going, well, what if you knock that wall down and you build something new there, right? A lot of the times when Aquarius is talked about, I think it's sort of like it's the rebel, and it can sort of come across as like the rebel without a cause. I think that Aquarius does have a cause, and the cause is it's the visionary. And so we're trying to maximize human potential. I think Capricorn is doing the same, and Aquarius is just sort of expanding this idea of discipline, this idea of growth, and this idea of tradition, to use it as like a launching pad for envisioning what else is capable out there, what else is possible. And we know the stories of the cycles of Aquarius also tell us how we are connected to everything. We are everything. There is no I. It's only we. We are expressions of the universe, observing the universe, right? And so that's where this idea of like how to be a good human comes in. Aquarius knows we are all connected. What I do affects you. What you do affects me. So are we making sure that there's, we're honoring that relationship with every living being in the universe? Are we showing up at our highest potential, most evolved selves? So the cycles of Pluto are going to symbolize the journey that it takes to do the work of being reborn. So it's this journey of diving deep into the underworld of our own doing, whether that's like our sort of subconscious, our unconscious self, excavating these dark parts of ourselves, meeting our shadows, and also the underworlds of society that we have collectively created together. We're meeting this shadow self of the collective, right? Because Aquarius knows that we are all connected, that we cannot separate ourselves from what's happening in the world and say, well, I don't have any part in that. Aquarius says that's not possible to do. So we're journeying deep, we're diving deep into these underworlds. And the important thing here is that we're facing what we find. We're not able to run from it, right? Pluto is the god of the underworld. We're stuck here. We cannot be reborn. We cannot create this new world until we face the truth that is being excavated. So Pluto really brings like what was once shadowed, what was unknown, what you were unconscious of, and says, look at it. You have to face this. You have to meet this. Kind of like a meeting your inner demons kind of moment. And that's very empowering, right? And so Pluto is also known to be to deal with power and power dynamics. It's also exposing like where power has been imbalanced in our lives. And then eventually, as we're going through this process, we're facing these truths, we're meeting these demons, we're sort of making friends with them. We're like, I understand you, here's your place. We're emerging stronger and more aware as individuals, but also as a society collectively together. So January 20th, we're going to start to feel this, but I want to note that this is a 20-year transit. Pluto will be in Aquarius until 2044. So, we're not really expecting I'm not expecting a major, major event to go down this day. It's more, becoming aware of what we're going to start experiencing, becoming aware of like how things are changing, how we're seeing this shift from Pluto in Capricorn in the sign of governments and economic institutions into the sign of the collective consciousness, and the tools that we use to evolve ourselves as a society as well. So that includes our tech, right? And I also want to note that Pluto will retrograde back into Capricorn this year. So we're not totally done with this story of Pluto and Capricorn. That will be happening later in the year. I think Pluto does not officially retrograde back into Capricorn until September, and it will be there until November. So that is something to take note of. A lot of these themes that we've been seeing over the past couple of years will be coming back and returning. So look at your Capricorn house. That's where Pluto's been doing its work for the last 15 years or so, since 2008, excavating these truths, bringing to light hidden enemies, signs of again, manipulation, of like power imbalances, and then asking you to meet them and to face them in order for new life to take form. So while Pluto is in Aquarius from January 20th until I think June, it will retrograde, and then it'll go back into Aquarius November. We're going to see these three major themes coming up. Again, this is for the next 20 years as well. So they're a little broad and vague, but we're going to see how this story really develops. So the first one is the one I think we're all feeling, which is this huge digital renaissance. We're really entering an era where technology and creativity are blending, and they're moving very quickly. And this is leading to these really exciting, groundbreaking discoveries and new tech. I think the first one coming to mind for everyone is, of course, AI. I think AGI is probably right around the corner. But in general, we're just seeing this total digital renaissance. We're seeing technology becoming more and more integrated into our everyday life. I mean, I already joke that we're cyborgs. I mean, we can't go anywhere without our phones at this point. And so we're going to see that become an even more prevalent theme. And we can expect to see some really interesting new tech integrate itself into all kinds of aspects of society as well. The second big theme is the freedom for the future. When we're talking about Aquarius, again, we're talking about Capricorn wants to like keep everything really structured and keep it, keep everything in line and follow the traditions. And Aquarius comes in and says, well, I want complete freedom and equality for everyone. So is this structure helping everyone have that? And if not, then it needs to go. I would say the big thing we're going to see here is that we're not just going to accept things because that's the way it's always been done. Aquarius is a visionary, and Aquarius will tell you, I don't care that that's the way it's always been done. Now we're going to do it this way. We're going to innovate. We're going to create something new. Oftentimes, I think with its modern rulership, Uranus, it's about creating something new out of necessity, even, which I think we're feeling as well. It's this idea of like, what is real freedom? What does that look like? And how can we ensure that for all humans? Because that is, that's our right. And we're also going to see, like I talked about, this collective evolution of consciousness. Aquarius tells you there is no I. It's all we. We are, we are one. And so we're thinking more about we than I. We're understanding that we are interconnected, that everything that happens to me happens to you, that everything that happens to you happens to me. I cannot separate myself from you. I can't separate myself from the natural world. It's not possible. So how can we empower ourselves? How can we do that work, right, to evolve our own consciousness, reach our own potential, but also how are we making sure that we understand that we are so much more powerful when we're connected and when we're organized. It allows us to be united and purpose-driven together, and to move collectively as a society. I think we're going to see a lot more movements happening, where this is just a major theme. Like, we're understanding we are stronger together. It's about we as opposed to I. I wanted to go through the houses for Pluto and Aquarius, just because this is such a major transit, and this is really new territory for us, and this will be lasting 20 years. So this is like when you're looking at your chart, you want to think long term as far as seeing any kind of events happening for you here, or paying attention to like how this is showing up for you. I'll just quickly go through the houses. So if you're an Aries rising, then Pluto and Aquarius will be happening. Pluto will be transiting your 11th house. So this is about community and friendships. Understand that you're stepping into a future where the communities that you're finding and connecting with can really revolutionize your world. Again, you really want to embrace some collective power here. And you also might feel yourself kind of stepping into your Aries leadership qualities and igniting change within the communities that you do belong to, and kind of asserting like yourself as a leader, a change maker in those areas. For a Taurus rising, this is happening in your 10th house. So career, public image transformation is definitely on the horizon. This is really a push for you to redefine what success means to you, and know that any innovative ideas that you're having, especially when they have to do with tech, um, or involving like communities or humanitarian causes, they have the power to reshape industries, and that you can really lead with your vision. Again, we want to think about Aquarius being that visionary. If you're a Gemini rising, this is happening in your 9th house, so you can prepare for an intellectual renaissance. 9th house is the house of how we educate ourselves, our sort of higher education. So like where we're getting our degree, where we're sort of mastering our knowledge, and also where we're expanding to understand how other people understand things. We're connecting to other communities that are going to expand our horizons and introduce us to new ways of thinking. So know that each of these discoveries is expanding your mind and your soul, and really embrace that journey of learning that you're going to be going on. If you're Cancer rising, this is happening in your 8th house. This is the house of death. This is the house of deep emotional ties that can lead us to having really connected soul experiences with other people, whether that's like an exchange. It's about exchange of energy. So it can be exchange of emotional energy through like sexual relations, through really like deep soul evolution and understanding together, or through financial matters, like you handling someone else's money, or someone investing in you, or you receiving an inheritance. This is really just about exploring deep emotional ties, connections. I would say trust in vulnerability. It's really your strength and pathway to transformation and understanding more about yourself through your experiences with others. If you're a Leo rising, this is happening in your 7th house. So your relationships are evolving. They're offering you lessons of balance, power, intimacy. It's a great idea to keep your heart open to unconventional love, unconventional sort of connections, like very close personal connections. These are going to teach you the most. If you're a Virgo rising, this is happening in your 6th house. This is the house of body and health and wellness, but also of our sort of daily habits that contribute to our health and wellness, and our coworkers who we're interacting with on a daily basis. This is interesting. It's like embracing innovation, technology, newness in your how you care for yourself, in your daily habits, in wellness. When it comes to your coworkers, this is going to be a key to you feeling healthy, to you feeling whole. If you're a Libra rising, happening in your 5th house, we're looking at creativity and romance, really creative soul expression. So we're revolutionizing the way that you are expressing yourself, and that you're expressing and finding pleasure in yourself and the world. Scorpio rising, this is happening in your 4th house. Going going to see some foundational changes in your home and also your inner emotional world that are going to offer some growth. It can be a great idea to build yourself a sanctuary and let that place kind of be where you feel comfortable doing that deep transformational work, where you feel comfortable exploring your deeper self on that Pluto soul journey. For Sag risings, this is happening in your third house. This is communication, writing, you're using your voice, connecting with your siblings, with your local communities. Your communication channels are buzzing for the next 20 years, transformative. The idea here is that you really want to speak your truth. It has the power to change minds and open hearts. Be your authentic self. Embrace that Aquarius weirdness when it comes to your voice and expressing yourself. Capricorn rising, this is happening in your second house. So this is helping you redefine what wealth means to you, what material success looks like to you. Your values could be in flux for the next couple of years, kind of questioning what it is that you value materially, and also what you think about yourself and how that translates to what you value. It's a great idea for you to invest in what really enriches your soul, because this is where you're going to find out what true abundance looks like and feels like to you. If you're an Aquarius rising, this is happening in your first house. This is really exciting. This is like a personal renaissance of your identity, the way you look, the way you come across to people. Pluto here, it can almost kind of make you look like the bad guy, make you look like, I'm almost feeling like you're entering a villain era, but it's not necessarily like I'm trying to be controversial or I'm trying to be difficult. It's more like I'm expressing my authentic self, and if people have a problem with it, boo-hoo. You're wearing this authenticity with real Aquarian pride, who does not care what other people think about them. So it's your light in the world, and it's important that you find and understand that and learn to stand in it, even if you have to stand in it alone at times. And for Pisces rising, this is happening in your 12th house. So this is very spiritual realm. This has to do with the astral realm, with your dreams, aspirations, and with soul consciousness. So the unseen becomes seen to you. Again, we think about Pluto like excavating something, bringing something up from the depths, bringing something to the light. It's real expansion and transformation of your spiritual and subconscious realms. You want to definitely listen to your dreams. Maybe start a dream journal, maybe like get into dream work, start studying dream work. They could really be holding some great messages for you during this time. These are really like vague, kind of not vague, but kind of a overview of what's going on. If you want to look for more in-depth horoscopes, you can always go online to my website, or you can book a reading with me. Next transit that's happening, or that I want to talk about, is Saturn in Pisces. This actually, Saturn moved into Pisces last year in 2023, in March of 2023, and it will be there until March of 2025. So this is an ongoing, 2.5-year transit. And what we're talking about with this transit this year is kind of like a peak, because, we're kind of in the middle of it. We're in the thick of it. So we're really getting into the lessons of Saturn in Pisces. Again, Saturn is this father time, right? He's putting rules and restrictions on us, not to limit us. I think people are always talking about Saturn being restricting and limiting. He's telling us to slow down, to take our time, to be intentional, to keep us safe, and to make sure that things are going to last, to build things properly. So I don't think it's actually to limit us. I think it's to help us grow and evolve, but it can feel limiting in the moment because we're like, I just want to do this thing. And Saturn's going, no, you need more time. You need more time to assess. You need more time to learn. So Saturn's tale is rich with themes of fear and redemption. We're also facing our fears a lot of the time with Saturn. He is requiring us to do the hard thing. And a lot of the times the hard thing is really scary. And that's why it's the hard thing, right? And Saturn's tales mirror our own earthly struggles to face and overcome our limitations, right? So he's not limiting us. He's showing us how to overcome them. Now, this planet of structure and limitation that is meeting a sign that is very much its opposite. It's connected to the subconscious and the intuition. When we talk about Pisces, we talk about the boundlessness. Or with Saturn, we're talking about boundaries, and we're creating these structures, and you can't go past this line. And Pisces says that line isn't real. We expand, we grow, we never die, we live forever. Everything is everything and everywhere all at once. And this is in the realm of our subconscious and our intuition, things that we can't really see, that might not show up in the material world, but that we feel emotionally, we feel on a soul level. And so with this transit, it can feel a little bit like sometimes, it's almost to me like Pisces is also offering lessons to Saturn. It's like Saturn is offering the lessons to Pisces. Hey, I think in places that Pisces rules, when we think about Pisces, we think about our dreams, but we think about our creative soul expression. So we think about art and music. And this goes all the way into like celebritism and, this world of Hollywood and celebrities. And it's like a world of illusions. And Pisces deals and dabbles in illusions and magic and fantasy, escapism. So with that, we're really looking at like, where has it gotten a little bit out of control? Where has it like lost the plot a little bit? And Saturn is going to come back and say, whoa, yes, these things are formless and they are boundless and they can be felt and, on a spiritual soul level. But what are you going to do about it? How are you making them tangible? How are you making them real? How are you connecting to them every day? And what is it that it's giving you? What is it that you've committed yourself to? Really questioning a lot of these things. This also has to do with spirituality, right? Religion, and also ways that we escape. So we think about, using substances or our addictions. So in general, we're invited to bring form to the formless, to apply some discipline to our dreams, right? Bring that Saturn energy to our Pisces subconscious sea of dreams, and to anchor our visions in the physical reality. So we're getting serious about this stuff. We're getting serious about the Pisces stuff. You can look to your Pisces house in your chart for more information. But in general, this period essentially is asking us to grow up. That's what Saturn does, right? He's like, hey, get up. You got to go to work. You got to do stuff. You got to work on that to-do list. You got to make stuff happen. And to really take responsibility for our spiritual health. Just as much as we do for our physical and our emotional wellness. So, how are we nurturing our spirit? Is it through religion? Okay, well, then how are we committed? What religion are we committed to? Is that what we really believe? Are those the practices that we really want to align ourselves with? Maybe people who felt that they were kind of getting carried away with religious or spiritual practices are kind of pulling back from it at this moment and going, I don't know if I need to do tarot 6 times a day. I don't know if I need to pull a card every time I need to ask a question. I don't know if I need to pull a chart every time I need to. Maybe I need to find better structure for my life for me to feel more spiritually aligned. And on the other hand, maybe it's people who are like, I need to get back to my spiritual practices. I need to get back to pulling my cards. I need to get back to looking at the chart and understanding the transits. So it's really, dependent on where you're at and what you're going through. But overall, we're all being asked, grow up, take some responsibility for yourself, and also collectively, we need to take responsibility for our collective spiritual health as well. So again, this is going till March 2025. So we think about these themes, long term. But this first theme, I think, is really major, is seeing our sensitivity, our vulnerability, our emotions, our spirituality as a strength, right? Traditionally, we've been conditioned to think that it's not okay to be too emotional. It's not okay to make decisions based off your intuition. Like, what are you talking about? You don't have proof. We're challenging that right now. We're becoming more open and aware to this world of emotions, to this world of spirit connection, as misrepresented and misconstrued. This idea of like, you can manifest anything you want. We're questioning things like that. But then we're seeing, oh, okay, it is a strength for me to be vulnerable, but how am I using that vulnerability? What am I doing with my intuition? Am I just escaping and saying, well, I don't feel like it, so I'm not going to do it? No, we're finding ways to cultivate that and grow our emotional and spiritual awareness into a muscle that we can use for us. We're understanding that being open, being vulnerable, being empathetic, being compassionate, it doesn't hinder us, it doesn't hurt us. It's actually a really powerful navigational tool for us as humans. We came here to be emotional. We came here as spiritual beings. We're here for all of this. We just need to be a little more disciplined about how we are using it, because it is a tool for our evolution. We're also breaking cycles of addiction, right? Pisces has to do with how we escape. And Saturn's coming in and saying, let's get real about this. Is this good for you? Is this good for your spiritual health? Is this good for your physical health? We're starting to see our addictions as not moral failings. They are attempts to fill voids that cannot be filled with substances, that cannot be filled with certain behaviors, or, going out to certain places. No, we need to address them. We need to see our mental health challenges, our spiritual health challenges as signals of unmet needs. And then we need to find that need and meet it. What is it that needs to be done here in order for us to not feel like we need to have a substance before we go out, or not feel like when we're sad we have to rely on, doing a certain thing or having a certain food. It can be anything. It can be codependency with other people. We're just looking at ways that we rely on something to, help us do what we should do on our own, right? With our own spiritual discipline. And then that kind of leads into the last major theme, which is service to the spiritual. So we're asking the big existential questions. Who am I? What do I believe? Where did I come from? Where will I go after this? What is life really all about? These are questions that we answer through our music, through our art, through religion, through spirituality. And we're getting really serious about our commitment to understanding our answer. What is my answer? Do I identify as a Christian? Do I need to get back into my Christian practices and principles? Do I identify as a spiritual person? Okay, what is my spiritual practice? Does it belong to me? Is it an open practice? These are the kind of questions we're asking during these next couple of years, and hopefully receiving some answers and some lessons that will provide some answers around these. So again, you want to look to your Pisces house to understand how this will be showing up for you. If you're looking at your chart and it's kind of difficult to understand which house Pisces is in, you can get a chart in whole sign house, and then it will be much easier for you to understand that. And you can also go online to my website, again, under horoscopes, and I have all of these transits written in articles with horoscopes for each rising sign, so you can check that out as well. The next big alignment that's happening earlier in the year, in February, is Chiron and Aries conjuncting the North Node. And I wanted to talk about this because the North Node being in Aries and South Node in Libra is where we're having eclipses. So we're having these like big fated changes, kind of crossroad turning point moments in that part of our charts and our lives. Chiron is going to be coloring part of that story, part of our Aries story, right? Chiron is in Aries. Chiron's an asteroid, and it is in Aries until 2026. So we're on this journey since 2018. It's an 8-year journey here. It's really a journey of identity, right? we're going to talk about eclipses and the themes that are coming up there. But in general, it's about our identity. It's about asserting ourselves, our needs, our desires, our willpower. And Chiron here is adding this element of healing because Chiron is known as the wounded healer. So the story of Chiron and Aries really speaks to our warrior's journey, right? Chiron is the wounded healer who was wounded as a child. So we can definitely look back to our childhood experiences to understand more about our Chiron placement. But Chiron was also wounded as an adult, and he was fatally wounded, but because he was immortal, he couldn't die from this wound. So he suffered from it for the rest of his life. And this he incorporated into his teachings. He was this very wise and important teacher for lots of heroes throughout Greek and Roman mythology. Chiron had this horrible, painful wound that he carried with him his entire life, and he really shows his apprentices and us now as students of Chiron. How do we alchemize something that's so painful, something that maybe happened to us in childhood, and turn it into something that's powerful for us, turn it into something that can power us as well. So the story of Chiron and Aries is speaking to our warrior's journey, confronting challenges, right, with that headstrong, bold, fiery Aries energy, battling internal and external demons, and eventually emerging stronger. This is kind of a theme for like the entire year as well, right? We're talking about the Saturn year. We're meeting our demon, our inner demons, our inner shadows. We're confronting them. We're battling them. We're making peace with them, and then we're coming out victorious. So I wanted to talk about this transit because as we're experiencing these eclipses, there's going to be this kind of element of healing when we embrace this very Aries energy. Aries is inspiring the bravery that we need to face all these vulnerabilities, to face these challenges, and the determination. I'm healing this. This is getting fixed. I'm paying attention to this, and I'm putting in the work now. So during this transit, we communicate with our higher self. We're feeling called to rediscover our inner strength, assert our truth, and empower others through sharing our stories and sort of embodying our inner Aries warrior. So this is going until April 2026. Again, this is coloring the whole year, but many years to come as well. There's 3 major themes here I want to talk about. Number 1 is courage and pain. This transit this energy becomes like a mirror that reflects the wounds that we're carrying as individuals, but also in society. We're talking about Chiron and Aries. We're talking about our identity, our self, our sense of self. Aries is the first house. It's the first sign of the zodiac. It's who are you right when you're born. That's like you're only really worried about yourself. You're only really thinking of yourself. How are you entering the world? How are you being seen? And what is your new cycle and your new path you're going on? We're looking at the wounds that we carry around our identity, around expressing our identity, around asserting ourselves, especially the wounds from childhood. And we're healing those and facing those in this transit. We're healing our identity, and this is showing us how healing can only begin with the courage to confront what's uncomfortable, to confront what's painful. You kind of have to go through that, and you have to have the bravery and the courage to do that, right? When I think about Chiron and Aries, and I talked about this in the article that's on the website, but it's a lot of like identity is like, as a kid, maybe you didn't feel comfortable eating your traditional foods, bringing them to school because you were afraid of what people would think. Maybe you were afraid of talking about, certain things that happen in an ethnic group that you belong to. You didn't feel safe to share these things. This transit is helping us say, no, I'm so proud of who I am. I'm proud of my racial identity. I'm proud of my ethnic identity, my national identity, whatever it is that I'm carrying. I'm not hiding from it anymore. And in doing that, I'm healing what happened to me in the past. I'm healing the pain that I felt. And that leads to this third theme here, which is also I'm healing generational trauma, not just what happened to my ancestors who maybe couldn't express their identities, it wasn't safe for them, but I'm also paving the way for it to be safe for future generations, right? I'm softening the environment for them by boldly and courageously being myself. So as we venture further in this healing journey, we're going to begin to rewrite the narrative for future generations. And the next transit that comes up, and that really kind of kickstarts a lot of, well, I would say really the year kickstarts with the eclipses, but which is going to start on March 25th. But I want to talk about Jupiter conjunct Uranus first. That's going to be happening in April. And March and April are going to be very active months, into May as well. That's kind of when I talked about that part 2 of the year where it's like things are changing and we kind of need to find our center amongst all of it and remember, I'm safe. It's okay. Change is a part of life and I'm moving through it. So that first big change is happening Jupiter conjunct Uranus. And these are 2 big outer planets. Uranus is the planet of shocking upsets, but we talk about shocking upsets in order to liberate us. It's about freedom. It's about, I shook you up so that you could see that you got to move on. You got to get out of here, or you got to change this up. And Jupiter is about helping us use the knowledge and experience that we have to grow, to expand, to receive blessings and abundance. When Uranus is transiting through Taurus, this is the sign most resistant to change, right? We think about Taurus as this bull. It's very bullheaded. It's a fixed sign. We can see a major disruption to the status quo, especially when it comes to Taurus-ruled themes of money, possessions, and material values. So Taurus as an earth sign is deeply rooted in this quest for stability, security, the parts of life you can see and feel, really like sensory experiences. How do I get the food I need to eat? How do I make sure that it's good, wholesome food so that I'm healthy? How do I get the house that I need to be safe at home and protect myself? There's going to be kind of a shakeup in there. And we're also, when we talk about Taurus, we're talking about our relationship to the land, and our relationship to Mother Earth. So we're talking about sustainability and eco-friendly practices, and what we value around all of these ideas. Do we care about the money more than we care about the environment? Do we care about the money more than we care about protecting ourselves and feeling safe? Right, so Uranus has been transiting through Taurus since 2011. So this is just sort of this moment where we might have this major disruption that helps us kind of, it adds another layer, I think, to the story of Uranus in transit. Uranus in Taurus. So Taurus is also ruling over the material things we like, how we're able to accumulate wealth, how we're able to get the material resources like food and money that we need to buy food and things to survive, and also our relationship with the physical world around us, our body, the sensory experience our body is having with the world around us, and also the earth, which is also our body, an extension of us. So this is happening April 20th. It's going to be an interesting 420 if you celebrate. Jupiter is going to be helping us grow and expand, right? And Uranus is going to be shaking us up, helping us go against the norm, innovate, create something new. And this is all in Taurus, in this sign of the material world resources. So that's the first theme I want to talk about, is how we use our resources. These old school economic models, especially with Pluto moving out of Capricorn, they're not cutting it anymore. They're built on this promise of complete steady growth, constant steady growth, predictable outcomes. Oh, if you have this and you set this price here, then you'll definitely get this. If you do this, then you'll get this. They're now being confronted with a new reality. They have been over the course of this Uranus and Taurus transit, but this theme is really going to become present. We cannot do things how we have always been doing them, especially when it comes to how we're using resources, how we're interacting with the land. We're understanding that we are in a sacred reciprocal relationship with the earth. And if we don't honor that, we cannot survive. This is also leading us to the second theme, which is that we're valuing, because we're understanding this interconnected relationship, we're valuing experiences, these like sensory experiences, being in our body, embodiment, over material things. So we're wanting to go for the nature walk with our friend and eat a charcuterie board and smoke a joint and like have these great memories and conversations and just really good quality food and just feeling good, rather than going out and being seen and having to be everywhere and needing to connect and network with this person. We're starting to value what really matters, what really lasts, or we're starting to really question what does matter to me, what do I value, right? And this is bringing an understanding that every choice that we make, from the food we eat to the products we buy, is leaving a mark on the world. I think this is also trending or helping us trend towards like DIY, towards can I do this at home? Can I make this at home? Is it sustainable for me to keep buying this and throwing away all this plastic and using this, or can I just do this myself? How did my ancestors do this? These kind of themes as well. We're valuing like sustainable practices and experience using sustainable practices over, not only things, but also just sort of talk. Like, it's eco-friendly, it's organic. Okay, what does that really mean? And are we really taking the steps to make sure that we're creating a sustainable relationship with the environment? And then finally, that leads to the third theme, which is personal liberation, right? Uranus is here not to just shake us up to mess us up, but to shake us up to elevate us, to liberate us. So there's a growing awareness of the toll that this relentless pursuit of success and money and things and material wealth can take on us, on our mental health, on our physical health, on our emotional health, on our spiritual health. We're liberating ourselves from that. We're understanding what really matters, and we're getting back to what really matters to us. And there's a sort of freeing that comes from that, and that comes from that understanding in like, oh, I don't have to grind myself to death to feel abundant. I don't have to sacrifice everything for money in order to feel safe, feel materially safe, right? We're readjusting the parameters there on like, what does success look like to me, and what does abundance look like to me? Now, after Jupiter conjuncts and meets Uranus, it will transition into the next sign, in Gemini. And this is going to be really exciting. I'm very excited for this transit. I think it's going to bring a lot of interesting new change. This will be going until next year, until May of 2025. So keep that in mind. But this will definitely be coloring a lot of the year. And I think it's going to kind of, I talked about like March, April, May are going to move very quickly. I think a lot of this is also going to happen quickly because of Jupiter in Gemini. Gemini is about movement and connection, right? A very adaptable, mutable sign, moves very quickly. So as Jupiter moves into Gemini, we're going to begin to focus together, right? Gemini is about connecting with others, community, especially connecting with who's around you, who's local to you, who's close to you. So especially in our local networks and communities, on the themes of knowledge, communication, and connectivity. So Gemini is ruled by Mercury. This is the planet of communication, knowledge, of how we connect and talk to each other. And it thrives on information exchange, learning, social interactions, and Jupiter's influence here is only going to magnify this. So we can expect things to get a little more social, a little more connected, especially when it comes to the internet. Gemini is rules over the third house. So we think about public transportation, the internet, social media, how we're connecting with each other. I think it's really interesting how this might show up in social media, because I think we've all been feeling this weird shift where it's like social media isn't really social anymore. It's not really for your friends anymore. It's more about like selling something or entertaining someone. And so I think this could really lead to some growth and expansion of social media world, of just how we're connecting with each other. I think we're also going to have to, this transit encourages a more connected and informed society, which is great, but it may also see us have to confront how overly engrossed, right? Jupiter is a benefic planet in astrology. It shows us where we're growing, where we're getting abundance. But, I always think about how in medical astrology, it also shows us where we can have abundance of like issues, of problems. A lot of times when abundance or sort of growth and expansion, when these themes come up in spiritual practices, you have to be careful, right? You don't want to become overly engrossed with it. You don't want to become engorged with it. And I feel like we've become a bit engorged with the idea of like entertaining social media. We've forgotten that we created the internet to work for us. We created public transit to work for us, transportation in general to work for us, not the other way around. And it's supposed to help us connect and live more seamless, easy lives with each other, right? And so I think we're going to be returning back to that idea, like, how are we connecting with each other? And maybe it doesn't need to be on these huge platforms and networks. You're probably going to see a lot more independent media, independent platforms, independent companies coming up and saying, I think even creators who have large followings, it's like, am I really interacting with my people anymore? My engagement's down so much. Like, are people really seeing my content? Maybe we're creating like niche communities, Discord chats, or, hey, let's have a Zoom meeting, or get on Clubhouse or something like that, where it's like, we're really actually connecting with each other. We're not just connected via the internet. We're like really communicating. We're talking. We're exchanging ideas and information. So May 2024 to May 2025. 3 main themes here. Information explosion. I don't know if you've ever interacted with a Gemini, but they're talk. Here's what I learned. Here's what I know. Think about like childlike curiosity, and then also childlike wonder and awe about what you've learned. So we can expect most likely a surge in media. Like I said, like independent media. There's been a real kind of exposure of like journalism and how biased it can be, especially when it's owned by big corporations who have political interests, or who just have corporate profit interests, and not necessarily prioritizing like the exchange of information. So we can probably expect to see a surge in media that really champions this idea. We're connecting you, we're getting you what you want to know, we're helping you socialize with your friends that you want to socialize with, these kind of ideas. New networking platforms, and really innovative new ways to expand and grow and share information. So this is like a real renaissance of the mind, of the breath, of the communication channels and networks of the body. Which moves us to our next theme, communication. I'm also expecting public discourse to kind of get a boost. I know we feel like everyone has a podcast, but this could kind of reach like a golden era of podcasts, where it's like we really start seeing people, because it is so accessible to just grab a mic and like record a video and put it on the internet. We're really starting to see maybe more podcasts of stuff we want to see, people talking about the stuff that we care about, or maybe because there's just so many podcasts, it's like, wow, I'm finding like these niche little groups talking about stuff that I didn't think anybody cared about. And now I've found this cool community that really cares about this stuff, and this is cool for me. So again, like a golden era of podcasts, a revival of live debates. I feel like most of the time when we talk about debate, we're like talking about presidential debates, but this could be like really seeing social debates coming back. I feel like that was a more common practice in generations past, where it's like, it's not necessarily someone getting up to debate to run for office. It's just like, we're having public discourse. We're having like a town hall kind of vibes. Let's talk about what's going on, what needs to be done. And then what I really think is going to happen, or, what I'm expecting, is like a next big social media platform that totally transforms the way we chat and connect. I think we're just so ripe for that energy. It doesn't mean that I think, Instagram and Facebook or TikTok or whatever will like go away. I know TikTok is in danger of being banned, but it's more for me that we're kind of getting back to like, what is social media about? Like, I want to connect. I miss my friends. I want to talk to my friends. Um, and I think also, like I said, assessing like, is this really the healthy way for us to connect? How can we create social media platforms that help us connect in real life as well, right? We can't just live on the internet. And then this leads to the third theme, which is social connection. So I definitely see some trends for more inclusive communities. Like I said, like you finding, oh, I didn't even know that anyone knew about this. And now there's this whole chat group for it. Or a curiosity about different kinds of cultures, different people, different ways of being. We're really going to start to enjoy and lean into the abundance that's available to us in the diversity of our human experience, hearing about what others are going through, connecting to them. And I think this includes connecting in real life. We've been very isolated during the pandemic. And even though they've released restrictions on us, we're still very much actively in a pandemic. And there's been a real loss of like third spaces and hanging out in person. And I think we're gonna get back to that, feeling more social, really embodying that Gemini energy. So now we'll move into eclipse season. Again, eclipse season is like fated changes, things kind of happening out of your control, coming out of nowhere, things you were like, I wasn't expecting that. And the big themes that we see with eclipses are, I'm moving into this, I'm growing into this area, I'm being challenged and pushed to grow into this area, and I'm releasing something here because it's not allowing me to grow further. It's like this push and pull. What do I need to let go of in order to evolve? And then what do I need to embrace in order to evolve? So March 25th will be the first eclipse. It'll be a full moon in Libra. When we're talking about Aries and Libra, we're talking about the self and others. So we're talking about, how do I assert what I need? How do I tell you what I need? How do I make sure I'm getting what I need? And then what are my obligations to you? Whether that's through government contracts, like, is your government properly representing you? Are they acting on your behalf? That's personal relationships. Like, are you being respected in your romantic relationships? Are you being respected in are your needs and wants being respected in your business contracts, with your business partner? Think like close, intimate, contractual relationships where it's like, I'm obliged to this, to you, and you're obliged to me. So how are we negotiating and managing this? Full moons are about release, and it will be happening. The South Node is in Libra. South Node is helping us release things that are no longer needed for us to continue on our journey. So, with this moon, we're looking at relationships that are holding us back. We're looking at where we've compromised ourselves in relationships, and that behavior is what's holding us back. We're looking at mindsets within relationships that are holding us back, and we're releasing. This is like a really big release, let go, surrender kind of moment with this full moon on March 25th. Then shortly after, we have a solar eclipse in Aries. This will be visible over the US. It's said that eclipses where they are visible are the most impactful. So both eclipses will be crossing actually the same point over the US this year. So we can expect them to be pretty impactful. With Aries, we're seeing like action. We're seeing self-assertion. We're seeing, I'm acting from willpower. This is a solar eclipse. This is on the North Node. So we're moving and growing into something new, a new cycle. We're being pushed to grow. So that's expected to be a very impactful transit. September 17th, we have a full moon. So you want to think about release, but it's on the North Node in Aries. So we're thinking about releasing something to help us grow further, right? And this is Aries. So this is, again, like identity, self. How am I coming across to others? How are they seeing me? And how am I pushing myself? How am I challenging myself to be brave and courageous, right? In my healing. And we're thinking about how Chiron is there, and these actions are helping us heal past traumas, generational traumas, future generational traumas, all of it. And then October 2nd, about a month before we have the elections here in the US, we'll have another visible solar eclipse, this time in Libra. So let's talk about these themes for these, and you can look at your chart to see where Aries and Libra falls for you, and we'll talk about that with your houses. Eclipses are disruptive to the normal flow of energy, right? The sun blocks the moon. That doesn't normally happen. The moon blocks the sun. That doesn't normally happen, right? We're marking turning points or revelations in our journey. I've heard, I've been studying some other indigenous astrology practices, and what I've heard from them about eclipses is that there's an imbalance, right? This is like, oh, this isn't supposed to happen. The light of the sun is blocked. There's an imbalance to restore balance. So I think it's helpful to see them that way. Other people talk about it being destiny, being fate. They can feel disruptive. So sometimes they can be a bit painful. They can be a bit like, why is this happening to me? We want to assure ourselves this is for our growth. This is to restore balance. So eclipses in the sign of Aries, the self, and also leadership, right? The warrior, the king, the emperor. This is Aries. And then Libra. Libra has to do with commitments to others, and also justice, receiving justice if someone has wronged you, giving justice to someone you have wronged. This is all suggesting unexpected developments in diplomacy, borders, and relationships, leading to disruption or major changes in global politics. This is because Libra has to do with the law and government. Again, these commitments that our representatives and that our leaders make to us. Are they representing us properly? Are they fulfilling their contractual obligations to us? And then Aries, our leadership, is our leadership doing the same? These events are going to encourage us to grow through conflict and negotiation, urging a balance between individual needs and harmony for the greater good. I think we saw already a lot of this theme coming up with the first eclipse in Aries and Libra, which happened around October 7th, October 11th, somewhere in there. So we can kind of expect this story to continue over the next year and a half, as the North and South Node are going to be in Aries and Libra. So let's talk about what that means. So the North Node in Aries, like I said, that's like where we're moving towards, where we need to grow, push ourselves towards, challenge ourselves to move towards these Aries characteristics and traits we want to embody. So Aries encourages us to act boldly and to honor how we really feel. And this helps us realize how our personal development is equally as important as the development of our relationships, right? We have to grow ourselves. We have to grow as individuals. We have to know who we are in order to show up properly in our relationships. And these eclipses are going to show us that, especially the eclipses that are happening in Aries. This transit is going to push us to trust our instincts, right? To act boldly on what we think we should do, to make decisions based on our inner guidance. I think about in several indigenous astro zodiacs, Aries is associated with the red hawk. And so the red hawk is literally diving down to the earth, because it knows that something is there. It sees it and then it follows it. The hawk doesn't wait for anyone to say, oh, you should go now. The mouse is there. The hawk goes locked in. Go for it. Trust yourself. Take the risk. Be bold. Dive into it. So we can really feel encouraged to break free from the expectations of others, right? What other people think we're obliged to do something or obliged to show up a certain way. We're busting out of that. We're like, no, this is actually who I am, and I'm going to be very true to that. And not only just embodying this authenticity, but acting on it. That's what Aries is really about. I'm choosing this now based on who I am and not what you want for me. And then the South Node, where we want to release, where we want to let go of things, where we want to sort of understand where we maybe become too comfortable. We begin to notice where we've compromised too much of ourselves in the name of peace. And so we want to reevaluate how we maintain our individuality within the context of all of our unions. So that's really going to be a lot of the lessons that are coming up when we have this South Node transit and eclipses in Libra. We're understanding like, whoa, I've given too much of myself away. I have I kind of disregarded what I needed in this exchange, whether it's a platonic relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's a contractual agreement between business partners. There's an imbalance of power maybe that we're understanding here, and we're negotiating that and we're fixing it. We'll be learning with the South Node Libra lessons how important it is to show each other mutual respect, understanding, compassion, empathy, and to set up systems of equitable give and take. We're going to start understanding that this is what actually sustains healthy relationships, not just people pleasing in order to make everyone else happy, because then that leaves you out, right? So I want you to see these times as crossroads of change. So let's say Aries is your first house and Libra is your seventh house. You're having eclipses in Aries, then you're understanding how to grow into your own identity, how to grow into yourself, how to greet you're learning lessons about how you greet the world with your appearance and with your actions. And then you're at the same time with the eclipses in Libra in your seventh house, you're looking at your one-on-one relationships, your legal contracts, your connections, and you're going, where have I given myself away? Right? Where is this not working for me? So it's going to be happening on this axis. So like if Aries is your second house, then Libra will be your eighth house. If Aries is your third house, Libra will be your ninth house, so on and so forth. So you can look here for kind of an overview of like some of the themes that will be coming up for you. Again, you can look on the website for more in-depth horoscopes, or you can book a reading, especially if you have like a lot of Aries or Libra placements. Or if you are an Aries or Libra, this could be like really impactful for you. It might be worth it to kind of get a year look ahead at like what's going to come up and some of the themes that might come up for you. So yeah, I'll give you a moment to, pause and read that if you want. But that is my overview. I tried to keep it an hour so that we could go through kind of quickly and just hit those main themes and points, things to be aware of, points for, challenges and then opportunities. Overall, I would say these three main themes: awakening to our need for growth and healing, embracing self-reflection, huge, 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 learning more about yourself, learning more about your shadow self. Really great year for you to do that. Really great year for you to dive into that, to find people to help you with that, to help find practices to help you with that. And then ultimately, we're surrendering to grace and the unknown. It's a very powerful, transformative year, and I call them tunnels of transition. You're oftentimes in darkness, you're isolated when you're going through these things. It can be very scary. You're not sure if you're going to make it out. You're not sure what's going to happen. You're not sure where you're being taken. And so I want you to remember to surrender, to let go. You're not in control of everything. You can't control everything. Um, Life is asking you to become more aware this year, to become more intentional, despite how quickly things will definitely start moving, March, April, May, for sure. The lesson of a Saturn year is to slow down, to be intentional, to understand where to apply yourself, to understand where to surrender, where to let go, where to allow the universe to do its work. So I hope that was helpful and you enjoyed that. Again, if you have any more questions, if you want to connect, if you want to know more about your chart specifically, please contact me. You can go to my website at www.aquamooncosmos.com. Under horoscopes, you can find all these transits horoscopes with horoscopes for rising signs, as well as a way to book a reading with me if that is something you're interested in. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.